All right, cool. So that's what today we're going to do a little bit something different. I know I'm new to the YouTube world, but I have Mauricio here with me. Welcome, Mauricio. Thank you for joining me today and spending some time chatting. Mauricio is the owner of Aura Home Exteriors in Edison, New Jersey, and an owner-operated company built around accountability, transparency, and direct communication, serving homeowners with roofing and exterior work like gutters, siding and windows and doors. So today's conversation is about helping homeowners make smarter decisions, gaining awareness around shady tactics that some contractors use in the field, and helping good contractors stand out by running clean, professional jobs from the first inspection all the way to the final walkthrough. So, Mauricio, welcome. Before we jump in, just tell us a little bit about your business and what you pride yourself on.
Well, Anthony, thank you for having me. So a little bit of how we pride ourselves and what we do is because we're owner operated, it alleviates one of the biggest problems that we run into in the industry, which is you get sales guys. They come into your house, they feed you a lot of bullshit. And at the end of the day, what they say and what you get are on totally different planets. So that's why we take the responsibility and the accountability of coming out. We say what we do, we're going to do what we say. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is provide a higher quality of communication, of transparency that the other industry, the rest of the industry does not provide. Okay. So mostly accountability. What we like to do is we like to put ourselves up there and hold ourselves accountable more than because homeowners don't know what they're getting. And basically, at the end of the day, it's just going out there, putting out a clean product and doing the work the way it's supposed to be done.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, Marisa, what are some of the common like shady tactics that you're seeing in residential contracting? And what are some real world damage that it actually causes to homeowners and to honest contractors that are out there?
It's funny enough, I have so many to choose from. But I'm going to just give you the most common one.
Sounds good.
The most common one we see is something called lowballing. Okay, so basically what ends up happening is people are out there, they're starting to get estimates, and what they tend to do is they'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, okay, look, we have everybody's at 10,000 and we're at 5,000," and it's one of those things where it sounds too good to be true, but when you're putting money aside and you're like, I really don't even want to do this, especially when it comes to a roof, I'll take the lowest bid. And what they tend to do is, okay, great, sign off, everything's good. Here, I'll take the deposit and I'll get the job done. So, day of the job, what ends up happening is they tear off the roof. When they tear off the roof, this is where they come and get you. So originally the job was, let's say, $5,000. Now they've torn off the roof. You really don't have any recourse because you don't have a roof. And they start going, listen, Anthony, we got a problem. There's a bunch of wood that's rotted up here. There's a bunch of rafters that need to be replaced. And now they, for lack of a better term, they got you by the balls at this point, okay? Because you got two options. Either one, you fire them, or which now you're at a really bad position because you got nothing up there. Or what most people do is they capitulate, right? They're like, okay, how much is it going to be? So that 5,000, where it was like half the price, now they're at 15, $20,000 because they know they got you. Okay.
Mhm.
And what ends up happening is they play the game in numbers, right? They do it to 10 people. One or two will complain. You let those guys go. Those are the little fish. The other eight, they're going to do it and you make your money. You know what I mean? So I think that's one of the biggest scams that you see right now. And I know a lot of guys who work for other companies that this is their MO across the board. And this is how they make 80, 90% of their profits.
It's incredible that this is the way that some contractors out there are actually operating. But from like a homeowner side, like when a homeowner, let's say they get three bids, for example, and one's way cheaper, what are the top reasons that usually happens? And what are the questions that could expose whether this is actually legit or is this a trap further down the road, like you just explained?
Well, one of the reasons is one that I just told you
Yep.
about. Another reason that they're going to have lower bids is because they're promising things that they're not going to deliver, right? And it's really easy for the guy to come out and say, hey, you're going to get a 50-year roof, you're going to get the 50-year warranty, you're going to get all this stuff. And they say it. And typically when you're signing contracts and stuff like that, None of that is in there for the most part, right? It'll say it across the top or something like that, but it's not really part of the contract. The other thing that you can basically they'll try to do is they'll try to be like, okay, hey, look, we're only going to do half the roof, right? We're only going to do one half of this, right? Which again lowers the price.
Mhm.
And then when they come out to do the job, they say, hey, look, you should do the whole thing. We got the materials, and this is what it is. So it's either they're not giving you what they say, they're using an inferior product, which is another one that they do a lot of, or they give you the lowball technique, or they say, hey, we'll do half, and then they do the other half when they got you at that point.
Mhm.
And homeowners, how they can protect themselves, unfortunately, it's very, very difficult, right? If you're not out there doing your research, listening to guys who are trying to protect you and again trying to earn your trust, it's very, very difficult, right? Do your research, see what's out there. The other thing too is read the reviews. Now, this one's tricky because a lot of people have a lot of reviews and a lot of people pay for their reviews right now. So it becomes a problem because you're looking it up and you're seeing all these great reviews. I would say, number one, whoever you're meeting with, look for their name in the reviews. If their name isn't in the reviews, that's a red flag. Okay. The other thing, go to the 1 star, 2 star reviews, see what they did to them.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the other thing is just put in the name of the company, bad reviews, and check them out on Better Business Bureau, Yelp, Angie, whatever, wherever they come up. Don't look in just one place because they might be focused on that one place, and
Yep.
you're not going to get the big picture, so to speak.
Mhm. It's interesting that you bring up the reviews because if they're buying the reviews to make themselves look more reputable and more trusting, it shows how powerful that reviews really are. But I'm glad to hear that you're saying that go to the next length, go check out Better Business Bureau, do your research, do your due diligence before signing any contracts with these contractors. And now I'm curious as well, what are the biggest red flags in a proposal or a contract that most homeowners may miss? And what exact like language should they insist on that contract that's included to not only protect themselves?
So the a very bare bones contract is a red flag. Okay. If they say, hey, it's just a roof with no other documentation, that's a problem, right? If on the contract that says, hey, here's a roof, and then there's another piece of paper that explains the roof and it's all connected, great. If it just says roof and a number or a product and a number, that's a problem. Okay. The other thing, unfortunately, is you have to look at the fine print,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
It's a big, big part because in that fine print, it's where you're going to get screwed the most. The best thing that we have right now is we have access to all these AI. You have Grok, you have Gemini, you have ChatGPT, right? If they give it to you in a PDF, or if you can even if you screenshot it, feed it into one of these AI programs and say, hey, what are the red flags here? And like that, it'll pick it up. All right.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
And a lot of that, the verbiage has to do with mostly the what they're going to add on, right? And where it becomes problematic. Because I'll give you an example. We typically sell a sheet of wood or wood replacement between $100 and $120, depending on the thickness, how high, all that stuff. Okay. We've seen it as low as $65 for some guys will do it. And then here comes the problem. If they charge per square foot, you think you're getting a deal because they'll say, hey, look, it's $4 a square foot, $5 a square foot of wood replacement. Okay. Sheet of plywood, 32 square feet. At $5, now it's starting to add up.
Mhm.
Okay. And they'll just keep doing that. And they won't charge you per square foot. They're going to charge you per sheet. You're going to get screwed at the end. So that's what you got to really look for. Use the tools available, do your research, use ChatGPT, use Gemini, use all that. It'll help you out.
To really look at that fine print, really read between the lines there. And with that, even let's say they sign the contract, we all know deposits and payment schedules can get messy extremely fast. So, like, what's a fair professional payment structure that can protect both sides, and what payment structure kind of says, run the other way?
So I think it really is specific to the project itself,
Mhm.
right? I can't talk about across all the industries because everybody's different depending on, hey, you're doing something custom, you're definitely going to get a higher, hey, I need X amount, right?
Mhm.
I think rule of thumb is deposits should always stay between 20 and 30%, right? I think that's fair. I think that's enough for the homeowner to be like, hey, I got skin in the game, right? Here's your 30%, and it's enough for the contractor to get the job started. For the most part, I think that's fair. If anybody, a lot of these guys like to do a third, a third, a third. I really don't like that unless it's a huge project that's got multiple facets. I
Mhm.
wouldn't trust that, you
Mhm.
know. And another thing that I think a lot of at least the medium to big contractors should be able to offer is financing, right? So if you could offer financing and say, hey, look, I won't take a dime from you, even if you're paying cash, I won't take a dime from you. Here's the financing that puts them at the other end where the
Mhm.
homeowner's protected, but the contractor really has to come through.
Mhm.
And if they want to, and at the end of that, also, if you're using financing and say, hey, look, I want to pay the whole thing, I don't want to do financing, is that also an option? They should be able to say yes, 100%. And everything should be if you don't understand it, don't sign it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And same thing for the contractor. If they're not understanding it, don't do the job
Yeah,
because you're
just gonna ask you as well, is that the opportunity for the contractor to guide them in that payment process and to also build trust for themselves?
100%. If you can't, when it comes to money, if you're not crystal clear of where every dollar is going,
Mhm.
something bad is going to happen. To one, to the other, to both. Okay,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
not going to work out. You got to understand where the money is, where it's going, where it's expected.
Yep. And you kind of alluded how change orders, for example, can be weaponized in the industry. So
Okay.
that's pretty much where trust goes to die, right? So what's the right way to actually handle scope changes, pricing, and approvals so nobody gets blindsided down the road?
So I think a big part, again, and this is where like, communication is so critical and why we love to harp on communication. Before the job even starts, you got to kind of say, hey, look, these are the potential pitfalls that could come up, right?
Mhm.
Discuss that first. Discuss, if you don't know the exact number, fine, give a range, right? It can't be between 5 and 50,000, but right, like give them some sort of general idea of what that's going to cost, right?
Yep.
If you're clear at that point, that's step one. Step two is as you're doing the work and that problem does come up, before you go into the fix, bring the homeowner out. This is why it's critical to be documenting everything, showing them, hey, look, this is your whatever, this is your roof, this is the problem. Show them what it is, give them the options, and let them sign off on it before the next step.
Mhm. Yeah, right. Because we can fly in an airplane, for example, and working with you, I'm going to fly first class, but we may hit turbulence, and if I get freaked out because there's turbulence because I didn't know that was a thing, then I'm gonna say, "Oh, it's all Mauricio's fault. He didn't tell me."
Great
So,
analogy.
so
I
being actually communicative upfront of what the pitfalls could potentially be.
100%. I think that's a great analogy. I mean, you don't want to go up onto the plane and the pilot goes, listen, by the way, we're cruising at 60,000 feet. It's my first day flying.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, beforehand puts you a little bit better. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
And with that and the credibility behind like, flying a plane, for example, we hope that they're licensed. We hear permits, licensure, insurance, they all get used as buzzwords. What should a homeowner actually verify and how should they verify it? And what's the minimum acceptable standard for that?
especially when it comes to licensing, every state is different.
Mhm.
We operate out of New Jersey mostly. You can go on to I forget what it's called for each one, but it's like the consumer. I forget what the exact terminology is. I got to get back to you on that one. The Department of Consumer Affairs, something like that, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
each state has their own. You should be able to put the business name, and it should tell you, hey, the license is active or it's not active. Okay. There comes extra things to it. Their insurance, they should be able to provide it. They should just say, hey, we have an insurance. This is what it covers. This is what it doesn't cover. This is how much it is. Should be pretty clear cut. There shouldn't be any issues. And they should be able to provide that at the time of, hey, you're signing the agreement. They should be able to have that. As far as what is needed, each state is different. They'd have to look it up. They'd have to say, hey, look, this is what's required. Like in New Jersey, not only do you have to have insurance, not only do you have to be licensed, you also have to be bonded to do the work. Okay. And this is
Mhm.
the big one that's missing because now the people who aren't bonded can't get the insurance. So what happens is they'll have an insurance from 2, 3 years ago that's not really active anymore. So you got to see the effective dates. It's not only just providing it. I know it's you got to do the work, you got to go in. And again, Chat GPT is great for this.
Yep.
Feed it, It's 2 seconds. It'll tell you, hey, look, red flag, this thing expired 6 months ago, you
Hmm.
know?
Hmm.
As far as like credentials go, I don't know if you could see up there, but like that's like a master elite, right? So what that tells us is like, hey, these guys are actively participating in the industry. It doesn't have to necessarily be that one, right? But anything that shows, hey, these guys are actively participating in it, you know?
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, because I tell you a personal story of mine. I had somebody come and redo a roof actually. It was one of a kind of an off-section addition and was just doing some just taking off some of the top and ended up using a blowtorch and it was a hot July day. Of course, verbally said, "Yep, I have insurance." Ended up causing a fire later on and that was lesson learned on my part. Didn't verify, didn't further check, didn't read the fine print. So for the homeowners out there that are listening, saying, "Oh, what's the worst that can happen?" It can get pretty ugly fast.
Oh yeah. And it's a lesson that you pay with your wallet and it's never cheap.
Well said. Well said. Cool. For contractors who want to stay clean and professional, what simple systems separate the pros from the chaos crews? For example, we can look at like intake, documentation, photos, daily updates, warranty processes, etc.
I think that that's what sets a good contractor apart from a bad contractor is their systems. Okay. Everybody thinks it's this very complicated thing. It's not complicated. You need to put in the work. All right. And if you don't have the time to put in the work, find somebody who can put in the work because this is what makes the difference between you making money and you losing money and a happy customer and a pissed off customer. Okay.
Hmm.
Those
Hmm.
are critical. It's very, very difficult because each business kind of does their own kind of thing. Sometimes you need an expert to come in and kind of highlight those issues for you and tell you, hey, look, this is what I see. But basically, what you should have is what if you're, I think the easiest way to do it is start from the beginning, obviously. Say, what do you need before you walk into that house, right? What is the information that you're going to need to make sure that this job goes as clean as possible? Set that up, go from one to the next, and don't move past the one unless you get that information, right? In the home, you should have your own system that you've developed, or again, have an expert come in and set you up and tell you, hey, this is what you need to do, and make sure you tick all those boxes. If you've missed one, you got to go back and you got to make sure you get clarification on it, right? Day of the job, same thing. What do you need for that job to go 100% clean, right? You start at the beginning, you say, hey, you mentally map out what you have to do. There's no other way to do it, right? And each one is slightly different. Documentation is super important. We use an app called Company Cam.
Hmm.
Basically, what that is hey, here's a ton of pictures of the job. It's every part, every time we're doing something, and more importantly, we give that link to the homeowner before we even begin. So, hey, if they're home, great. You could follow along. You could go outside. You could talk to us. You're at work, or your husband's at work, your wife's at work, and you want them to look great. There it is. The I think a big problem with that is lack of transparency, right?
Hmm.
Guys are
Hmm.
afraid to put that out there because what's going to end up happening is that, hey, I'm going to get caught for something that I didn't do or I did do, and either one. So that's why I think it's critical. And I think if somebody tells you they don't have a system in place, that's another red flag.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
what homeowner's going to ask that, right? Unless you're sharp and you go, hey, what's your system for doing this? They should be able to rattle it off relatively quick, you know?
Yep. Yeah, even that on-site estimate can really show a glimpse of what that contractor's process is going to look like when you actually after you sign the contract and start paying with your dollars.
How they answer the phone. Who answers the phone?
Yep.
How fast do they get back to you, right?
Hmm.
Do they reply to emails? Do they reply to text? How are you communicating? All this stuff is part of all that. And if you don't know what you're doing, get somebody who does.
Well said. So if you could give, let's say, homeowners 5 steps to don't get ripped off checklist. Let's say you had a checklist, you can give it to an homeowner. This is the checklist that you use, homeowner, to not get ripped off. What would you actually include on there, just to kind of sum our conversation up?
Right. I would, to generalize it, I think across the board is first and foremost, do your research before you call anybody. That's number one, right? I know it's not what you want. You want to pay an expert to take that headache off your mind and say, hey, But the problem is there's so many guys out there, right? So if you don't educate yourself first, that's going to be a problem. You
Hmm.
have access to the greatest tools in the world. You have Google, you have YouTube, you have Chat, GPT, you have all of that. Do that first, okay? I would say you could ask around and say you could get some people who, oh, you got somebody who could do this work. But even that, I've heard horror stories. So
Hmm.
it doesn't matter. Do your research because no matter what, that's going to be your starting point. The other part of the checklist I would say is go in and before any of the work starts, document what you already have, right? Make sure everything before you call anybody out there, take a bunch of pictures of not where the job necessarily is, but the entire property where they're going to be working.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Number three, now when you're about to call people, we kind of touched on it. Look at the reviews, dive a little deeper into the reviews. That's where you're going to get a kind of a good feel of who's going to come out there, right? The fourth thing that I'm going to say is when they come in, um, even on the phone call, ask who's coming out, right? And kind of ask like, what are they going to do, right? If they can't tell you what they're going to do, that's a red flag.
Yep.
Also ask how long is it going to be, right? I think realistically, again, each industry is a little bit different, but 20 to 40 minutes should be all that somebody really needs. A
Hmm.
lot of you guys, what they do, and again, we could sit here for hours, but another big scam is they'll do a 4, 5, 6 hour presentation. The reason they do that is to wear you down. It's like a cop interrogating you and trying to get your confession.
Yeah.
So it should be between 20 and 40 minutes. You should be able to do that. And the last thing that I could kind of recommend them is when the guy's sitting there and you've done your research, you know what questions to ask, right? Don't let them do their pitch. Don't let them do their pitch. Jump in,
Hmm.
right? Jump in
Hmm.
right away. Because what happens is these guys, if they know what they're doing, they should be able to pick up at any point in that conversation.
Yep.
They're just reading from a script. The second you interrupt them, it's like throwing a wrench into the gears, and you'll see smoke coming out
You'll
of
see
there.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I think would be a kind of a general, but those are kind of like the five things that I would probably put out so that they can not get screwed, you
Yeah.
know?
And within that, Mauricio, there's a lot of golden nuggets for contractors as well. And I guess the one thing that I took from that is just be a genuine person. Just be genuine, be
Yeah,
transparent, and just be honest with the homeowners because they're going to read it immediately.
yeah, 100%. I think that's a great thing. Yeah.
Mauricio, thank you for your time, man. It was great chatting with you.
And
And
here, appreciate you having me on.
yeah, absolutely. We hope we'll get to chat again soon. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, take care.
Same.